Welcome back to the Record Player, everybody. I'm here today with Juno-nominated Toronto singer-songwriter Royal Wood, who has a new record out on November 4th called What Tomorrow Brings, and he is currently on the road touring through Ontario to support it. Welcome to the Record Player, Royal. How are you?
I'm very well, Scott. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all. I know you're busy with the record coming out next week and performing, doing some shows, so thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
What's the reaction been on the road so far for the new album throughout Ontario? You've been out since what, the beginning of October?
Yeah, the reception has been amazing. I am thrilled by not only the fans' enjoyment, but my band as well. Everyone seems to think that we've made something really special, and you just feel it. You know when a song is good, and you know when it's not your best. And I think because of the pandemic, and I think having 3 years to take a record I thought was done at the beginning of it and keep working it and reworking it and rewriting and reproducing. And I finally, for the first time, have literally finished a record. I've never finished a record before. I've always abandoned it and been like, there's no time. There's a tour coming. It's got to come out. There's a release date. This is happening. And this time we had stuff scheduled, and then obviously the pandemic happened. So we canceled all the touring, including Massey Hall, NAC, a bunch of stuff in the States. It was like, gone. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I guess I'll work on this record. So, and then now here we are, many years later.
I believe this is what, album number 9 for you? Studio record?
That sounds about right. Like 8 or 9 for sure. If you include like those early things, but yeah.
Plus the EPs, plus the live.
Yeah.
I mentioned it comes out next week. Tell me a bit about the new record. Just the recording process, the lead up to it. Just tell me a bit about the new album.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was definitely different than any record I've made before in that it was recorded all over the world in multiple places with multiple producers, as well as myself producing. And there's some co-writes, some of it's just me. It was kind of a hodgepodge. And really, I wasn't intending to make a record. I was just trying to flex the muscle because the machine was running and I was touring like crazy. And I'm like, oh, I have time. I'm going to fly to the UK for this. Oh, I have time. I'm going to stay a little longer in California. And just started chipping away at things. And then suddenly I realized I had a body of work I was really proud of. So, some of the stuff in LA was written and produced with a writer-producer named Linda Perry.
I was going to ask you about that, actually.
Yeah, well, obviously we can dive into that. And there's some with a producer in the UK named Jamie Scott, equally as revered as Linda is in the States. He is in the UK. And then I worked a bunch in LA as well with another producer named Bill Leffler, and then a guy out of Montreal named Marcus Pecan, who's known for like the National, Arcade Fire, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of all over the place. And then I was also producing and recording remotely out of Toronto and out of my studio here at the farm.
You're a pretty accomplished songwriter on your own, but writing songs with, you mentioned Jamie Scott. He's worked with Ed Sheeran. He's worked with, God, so many different people. He's worked with the Beeps.
He basically like made One Direction. Michael Kiwanuka's first record. Like, he's ridiculous, and that's the stuff that I love about him. Is actually not his crazy pop stuff. That's not what drew me to Jamie. It was his work with like Michael Kiwanuka and his love of '70s songwriters. So everything from Billy Joel, the Eagles, and he just geeks out over it. Which is why I think he likes writing with someone like me, because I'm not a chart-topping teen heartthrob, who's playing Coachella, like most of his artists are.
Not yet.
That's very kind of you to say. I'm very much a PAC, like performing arts center theater artist. Like in my world, we played to like 1,500, 2,000 people, and that's like huge. But in the world Jamie works in, most of his artists are playing like, 50,000 seat stadiums and stuff. So it's nice to work with them.
And speaking of which, Linda Perry, you brought her up. I mean, Four Non-Blondes, Linda Perry, probably one of the most, you either hate it or love it. What's going on? Everybody has an opinion on that song. She's worked with Pink, she's worked with Adele, she's written songs for everybody. How did that collaboration? When did you meet Linda, and how did that start?
That was I mean, it's a two-part process. One, I've been told for years that I should write with Linda by other writers and stuff that I work with out of LA. So lots of people, obviously, everyone knows everybody. And she definitely knew of me. And then my publisher, we ended up being signed to the same publisher called Pure Music. And they just set up an introduction. So basically, like she was coming through Toronto, it was probably for TIFF, if I remember correctly. And we just pitched a meeting and I sat down with her and she's like, oh, play me a song. So I played her a couple of the songs I was working on and she's like, yeah, come to California. Let's work together. And then that was that. It was like done and done. You know, she either likes you or she doesn't. She's a brutally honest human being. When she likes an idea, you know it. And when she doesn't, you know it. So, but you know, my God, she just completely reinvented Dolly Parton and made that like Grammy award-winning record at the same time. She's like, you know, she's doing it all. She worked with Brandy Carlisle. She's like anyone that I respect and revere. It's like, oh yeah, Linda's involved. So
she is one of those people that it feels like she's worked with like literally everyone.
Everyone, yeah, and she's touched. Like she is. I do feel this about Jamie as well, though. But you witness them work, and you're like, there's something going on in your brain or within your body that's just activating a different wavelength than the rest of us. You know, you're just like, you are different. Like
very different.
You're like, if you, and I mean this with respect, but it's like there's just like could be crazy, you know, like just shy of crazy, which makes them genius. You know, look at like a John Lennon or even like an Elton John. There's like you're almost crazy.
You're on that border.
You're on that border of crazy, and there lies genius. So.
My favorite song on the new record is Armour. What a beautiful song.
Thanks very much.
Unbelievable song. I know it's tough to choose from your own babies, but from this new record, do you have any favorites on the album? Do you have any favorites that you've enjoyed playing so far live?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing Armour right now. The band sounds so good. My singers in particular, Meg and Carly, are just such talented performers. So Armour is for sure. I mean, like you said, they're all my babies.
Yeah.
And lyrically, I am hard on my sleeve on this record. So I feel like for sentimental reasons, they're all important to me. But yeah, I mean, Armour definitely was obvious even before I was handing the record to the label and publicist and the team. I was like, I know everyone's going to say Armour is the sort of standout track.
It's a special song. It really is.
Yeah, it was definitely lightning in a bottle, and it's weird too because it was the very last thing that I wrote with Jamie, and the pandemic had already started. Like my wife was very pregnant, texting me photos of like empty grocery stores, going like, "Honey, like." Yeah. You know, I love you and I respect you and I want you to do great, but I need you to come home. You know, it's like something's going on and it's not good for you to be in the UK right now. Like you should probably come back home to Canada. You know, especially with the baby about to be born in weeks. Anyway, and that was the last thing I wrote. It was like that was the last thing, and it started as a little riff at the piano, and it was like, oh, I like this verse, and I wrote the lyrics of the verse and the pre-chorus. And then started to write a chorus. And Jamie was making coffee in the other room, and he came in. He's like, "Mate, it's really good, mate. But chorus, how about this?" And then he sat down out of nowhere, and boom, starts doing all the melody and chords of the actual chorus that is now Armour. And I was like, God, I hate you. Like I just hate you. Where did that come from? Where did that chorus come from? And so fast. He obviously was like drinking his coffee, hearing me write the song, and then was like, course it has to be better. What's better? And then you know, like
I love the fact that you're making your coworkers make you coffee. You before the album came back in May anyway, you released a cover of Tainted Love. When I heard that, my first thought was it takes a lot of balls to cover a song like that. Really, it really does, because an 80s song like that's kind of a generational 80s song. Marilyn Manson pooched it as far as I was concerned. I hated his version. Why that song? I mean, of all the songs that you could have chosen, why that one?
You know why? Is because we were in lockdown and I was trying to keep artistically busy and I didn't want to start writing and demoing up too many new songs because it was going to make me hate my record. I've been there before where I start to think what I'm writing is the best.
Mhm.
And therefore I just get tired of what I've already made. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to my record. I'm not going to look at my record, and I'm not going to write for myself as little as possible anyway. But I still wanted to keep flexing the recording muscle because I love it. And my publisher, I was like, hey guys, I want to keep my feet wet. So how about I try doing some cover songs? I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I don't know if they'll ever see the light of day, but you guys own the publishing to a lot of things. So what do you suggest? And it was actually one of my main contacts at Pure Music Publishers, like, hey, I think you should try to do Tainted Love, but turn it on its head. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try that. And I honestly, after I hung up the phone, was like, ooh, this is gonna be tough. That's like, that is an iconic, like you said, generational, like defining 80s
Yeah,
song. Like
absolutely.
you can't go to a dance without hearing that song and everyone's on the floor.
Mhm.
It's, you know, that's is it should be untouchable. Which I guess is because I was afraid of it was why I was actually like, okay, I'm gonna try this.
But
And
you pulled it
it
off.
yeah, I think it, I actually,
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I think it turned out. I did a few other covers. I won't say what they were, but I was like, no, this is not going anywhere. And I was very completely honest. I was like, you're not going to hear this one. You're not going to hear anything else. But I did that, and I also did a cover of "Time of the Season" by the Zombies,
Hmm.
which when this record is done and all the gas is out of it, we're going to release that one for the fun of it too.
Doing any of those ones live?
I probably will myself and with the fragments of the band at the end of the big machine running.
Mhm.
At the end of all this touring, I'll probably start doing some covers again because I like doing them at shows,
Yeah.
but not for these shows right now. I was so excited by the new record and I tried to fit in as many songs as I could, and then suddenly stood back and was like, if I do this many new songs, people are going to be upset because they're not hearing the hits, like the songs the fans have known for years. So by the time I did all that, I was like, I have no room for cover songs tonight. Like I'm maxed out at my 90 minutes, so that's what it is.
You mentioned turning the song on their head. I mean, it really was, because it reminded me of like a Gary Jules doing Mad World, or
Oh,
something like
nice.
that. Like
Yeah, yeah.
really a total opposite of what the song is, but still holding true to the original. Um, the Throughout your career, I've heard comparisons to God, everyone from Ron Sexsmith to Rufus Wainwright,
Yeah.
Jeff Buckley. I've heard
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
compared to. I don't know how you feel about comparisons. Some of the best music critics I know are my kids, because when I'm listening to a new album and when I know I'm going to be interviewing someone, they're around and they're listening to it. I got from my son on this one, I got Paul Simon vibe
Oh,
on One of You, that song. And of course, on Armour, my youngest daughter gave me the. I love it because it sounds like something that Niall Horan would sing. Any thoughts on those comparisons, or any other comparisons that you like?
I mean, I'll take any and all comparisons if it, especially if it moves you in a way that you're like, I'm a fan of something and that reminds me of it. Sure. Obviously as artists and musicians, as human beings, we're sponges and we take it all in, and you can't help but squeeze it out occasionally. You know, I don't. I Not since I first started writing songs as a kid have I ever sat down and said, today I'm going to try to write a
Right.
song like so and so. I just do my thing, and if something stirs and catches fire, then I went to the right place. And a lot of times, yeah, it's after I'm all done and I sit back and I listen. I'm like, oh yeah, I really. What is most striking to me is that I unabashedly will forever revere 60s, 70s singer-songwriters more than anything else. That'll always be my mainstay. I've tried to be contemporary sonically in a lot of what I make, but you know, give me a Cat Stevens or a Dylan or a Billy Joel or you know, whatever, like any day of the week. Those are the records I put on. Paul McCartney solo records. Just could listen to it till the end of time.
So my next question was going to be, what was inspiring you growing up? You just answered that for the most part. 60s, 70s singer-songwriters. What are you listening to now? Like, is there any stuff out there that you're listening to now that's new, that's kind of on your phone that you're like, man, this is awesome. This is really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be one of a billion people that say I think Harry Styles right now
Mm-hmm.
is that latest record is mind blowing. I think it's really incredible. It makes me feel good about music in this world. I think Brandy Carlisle definitely one. What else am I loving these days? There's a band called Lake Street Dive out of the States that is like, in terms of a live band, it's one of the best things going right now. Every musician is like 10 out of 10 in their depth of knowledge of music, and that's rare these days. I think a lot of people are not that great on their instrument, but that band sure is. Definitely still loving Michael Kiwanuka. That guy could do no wrong for me. God, there's so much music. There's a lot of stuff coming out of the UK, like that Sam Fender kid.
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
He's so good. Like, you're just like, yeah, you're the, you know, I just love hearing that music is still possible and doable and successful. It makes me feel good. Even like Holly Humberstone, her latest singles and stuff is really beautiful. Like, there's lots of great stuff. The truth is, there's so much stuff. I don't even know how you.
It's impossible. You can't.
There's so much music being released. I feel so bad for artists starting now. Like, oh, what an avalanche of music you got to cut through. It was bad enough when I started.
I hate it because from my side, I mean, I love everything. I love, pop music, rock music, hip hop music. So for me, I'm getting all this new stuff and I'm like, Jesus, I can't keep up. So it's amazing. No pressure on you at all, but Billboard magazine said Royal Wood should brace himself for superstardom. Nothing like putting pressure on you from Billboard magazine. I agree with that 100%. You're back on stage this Saturday at the legendary Massey Hall. Not the first time you've headlined Massey Hall. You put out a live record in 2020, I believe, from Massey Hall. It's got to be a special night, I'd assume, obviously, playing in that venue anytime.
Yeah, I mean, it was as a songwriter in Canada, especially one who was raised in Ontario, so one of my earliest memories of seeing live music is at Massey Hall and thinking like, this place is like a musical church, like it's like it's sacred ground and you feel it, and then you start realizing that all of your heroes have been on that stage, every one of them that have come through Canada, like all the jazz greats, all the folk greats, all the rock, you're just like, so yeah, to stand on that stage and be among the artists that have not only played it once but are considered a Massey artist that could be there. I'm very, very grateful and very lucky and very fortunate. That's for sure. Because a lot of my peers that I started with, I know that they didn't get to, and we all talked about it. We all did. We were all like, oh, one day wouldn't it be amazing just to be on Massey Hall stage? So it's not lost on me. I will soak it in because you never know when you do it again.
Right. I appreciate you being with us, Royal. The new record, as I said, is called What Tomorrow Brings. It's out on November the 4th, which is next week. It can be heard on the usual suspects: Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, and of course, www.royalwood.ca. I am waiting for the vinyl because that's what we do here at the Record Player. We wait for vinyl. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. And yeah, I'm a vinyl guy myself. That's how my wife and I listen to all of our cherished pieces of music. The delays in manufacturing in vinyl right now is just terrible. So this record is delayed by a full month, but it'll be what it'll be.
Well, thanks for being with us. Good luck with the show on Saturday night. Good luck with the rest of the tour and the record, and we'll catch up with you soon.
That sounds great. Thanks so much.
Take care, Roy.
Thank you.